Welcome to another exciting video. In today's tutorial, we are going to be looking at shared preference. So shared preferences is a type of storage in Android. It is used to store little amounts of data in key value pairs. So shared preference, I do not recommend people to use the shared reference for storing large amounts of data. So if you want to store large amounts of data, you can opt in for the SQLite database or the Firestore database, which is for real-time database. So in this tutorial, we are going to be focusing on shared preferences. Let me give you an overview of what we are going to be doing today. In this lesson, we are going to be creating an edit test with two buttons. So we are going to learn how to save and read from a save preferences. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a widget, double widgets of edit test and a button. So I'm going to give this a width of match parent and a height of wrap content. So I will give it an orientation of vertical. Okay, so close this up. So I'm going to pass in two edit tests inside this linear layout, and they are both going to have a width and a height of wrap content and match parent. So the width will be match parent and the height wrap content. Awesome. So I'm going to give it an ID so that we're going to identify it and get the value which the user passed in. So the test will be edit test 1. Okay, I'm close that up. Okay, ed1. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and put it down. Awesome. Okay, so here we have it is aligned to the center. That's because I gave it the gravity of center. And we are having this error because the both widgets, edit test widget, have the same IDs. So I'm going to change the second one ID to 2. Okay, now you see the error is gone. But now I don't want it to be this close, so I want to give them some margin top. So I'm going to give this 20 dp. Okay, awesome. And I also want to give this a background color. So I'm going to give it a background color of color primary. Awesome. And give it a padding of 20 and give the text color to be white. Okay, so I have the color code with me, so I'm just going to type that in. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and add it to the next edit test. Okay, awesome. So next now is the buttons, which is going to control the save and the read. So I'm also going to wrap it inside the linear layout. The width will be match parent and a height of wrap content. I will give it an orientation of horizontal and close this. So I'm going to pass in a button widget. I will give it a width of match parent, height of wrap content, and a width, okay, of 1. And I will give it an ID of save. Okay, also give it a test. Awesome. So I'll do the same thing for the next widget. Instead of me to keep typing it, I'm just going to copy this one and paste it down below. Okay, so now we have two buttons. So we are having an error also. So I'm going to change this ID to read. Okay, and also change the text to read. Awesome. So next, I'm going to give this some padding up, some margin up, sorry. So I'm going to add that in the linear layout. I'll say margin top, okay, 20 dp. Awesome. So now there's that space in between the widgets. So next, I'm going to, okay, I want some space to be in between the save button and the read button. So I'm going to add a margin left here, and that will be 10 dp. Awesome. So we have that spacing around it. And okay, so that is all. Okay, so I'm not going to style this button. So now this is the main thing. We are going to get the IDs of this edit test for, so that we'll be able to pass in the data inside the shared preference. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get the ID, get private late init val. Okay, so the first one is ed1 and it has a widget of edit test. Okay, so the second one, I'm going to give it the name of ed2, still edit test as well. Okay, so now I'm going to get the shared preference. So I will say private late init var, and I will give it the name of shared preferences, and you can see the first one is already showing as the first test. So I'm going to hit enter to select that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to initialize each of these variables. So the first one I'm going to initialize is the ed1, which is the first test. So I will say ed1 equal to, using the find view by ID method. So I will get the ID dot ed1. Awesome. So I will get the second one as well. Awesome. So now I'm going to initialize the shared preferences. So to do that, I'm going to say shared preferences equal to get shared preferences. So now you see it's taking in two parameters. The first one is the name, which is the name I'm going to give to the shared preference, and the second one is the mood. So I'm going to give it the mood of private. So first, let's choose a name for our shared preference. Let me use pref, okay, or let me use my pref. So it doesn't matter, you can just decide to use any name. But if you are doing it for, like, if you are defining more than 3 shared preferences in your application, make sure that their names are unique for easy identification. So the mood is going to be context. Okay, context.mode private. Okay, so you see we have lots of the mode append, mode enable write ahead login. So you can just go ahead and experiment with all of these. And for this lesson, I'm going to be choosing the mode private. Okay. So now what I want to do now is to actually create a function that is going to save these data into the shared preferences. So I'm going to get this ID, which is the save button ID. So I'm not going to use the find view by ID. I'm just going to get it directly from here. So to do that, I'll just type in the ID name, which is save. So I'm going to type save. Okay, so you see we are having save from activity.main.sml for activity. So the save is coming from the activity main.sml layout. So I'm going to select that and then give it an on-click listener. So inside this on-click listener, I'm going to call a function. So the function is going to be save. So that will be the name of the function. Right now you see it's showing where. That is because we have not created a function. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hover on it, click on this red bulb here. So you should see create function save. Just click on it to create the function for us. So now you see the function has been generated automatically. So what I'm going to do, since I'm going to be showing a toast on this, I'm going to create another function which is going to be a toast, and it will have an argument of message with a data type of string. Okay, so I'm going to, so the reason why I'm doing this like this is because I want to keep using this toast message everywhere in my code, instead of to continue typing this stuff toast.makeTest repeatedly. So I'm just going to call the function and then pass in the string inside. So this is going to be okay, toast.make. I'm going to use base context. So the string, I'm going to pass in the message as a string there, and then I'll give it a duration, toast.length short. Then I'm going to show this. Okay, now we are having an error, and the reason why we are having this error is because my function is not defined properly. It's supposed to be private font before the name. See, the font is missing, so I'm going to add that font here. Okay, and the error is gone. Awesome. So now this is not highlighted. That's because we haven't called this toast message. So now inside my save function, I'm going to make this shared preference editable. So I'm going to give it a variable name editor equal to, so I will get the shared preference here, this shared preference. So I will say shared preference dot edit. So this way now we can actually work with the shared preference. We can store data inside the shared preference by calling this edit. Okay, so now what do I want to save inside the shared preference? I actually want to save the value which the user is going to pass inside this edit test. So the first thing I'm going to do is to say editor dot put string. So since it's a string that the user is going to pass, I'm going to select put string. You can see we have lots of them. We have the put int, put string, put boolean, float, long, string set, and all of that. But in this lesson we're going to be using put string. You can also experiment with put int as well. So the put string now is also taking two arguments, the string and the string. So this string is going to be the key. Remember from the definition I say is used to store small amounts of data in key value pair. So this first one here is going to be the key that is going to be unique, and we are going to use it to access the values inside. And the next one is the actual value we want to save inside the shared preferences. And in this case we are going to be passing the edit test one value. So I'm going to give this a unique key. So I'll give it a key 1. You can rename it anything that you want, but make sure that it's unique. So this will be key 1, and then the next test, the value I'm going to be passing is this ed1. So I'm going to type ed1 dot test dot to string. Okay, awesome. So now we are not having any error. And the next one I'm going to store now is this second value. So I'm going to store that. I will say editor dot put string, and I'm going to give it a key of key 2. Note that the keys are different, they are unique. You must not make them the same. If not, you will get difficulties trying to read these data out. So the next one I'm going to pass is the ed2 dot test dot to string. Okay, awesome. So we have successfully passed in these values inside the shared preference. So the next thing I'm going to do now is editor dot apply. You can also use editor dot commit, and it's not going to give us any error. But now you can see that Android Studio has automatically highlighted this. If I hover on this now, you should see that we are having consider using apply instead. Commit writes its data to persistent storage immediately, whereas apply we handle it in the background, and that's what we want. We want it to handle this data in the background. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the commit to apply. Awesome. So with this now we have successfully added our data into the shared preference. But to be sure that everything is actually working perfectly, I'm going to call this toast method here. So I'll say toast, and now it's taking one argument, which is what I passed in here. So I'm going to pass in the value. So I will say data saved successfully. Okay, so this is awesome. So now we are going to experiment our code to see what we got. So I'm going to run this program now. So we're going to wait for Gradle to build the project. Okay, so the app has been built successfully and it has been loaded. So right now, okay, let me remove this. So you can see we have the save, data saved successfully. Is saving an empty string. That is because I didn't do some validation to this string before saving it. So now I'm going to pass in a data. So I will say destiny ed, okay, as the first name, and then the second name is going to be shared preference. Okay, so now I'm going to click on save to save this data. So I'll click on save, and you see now we are having the message data saved successfully. If I click on save, it's going to save also. One of the disadvantage of this shared preference is that when if I try to add another value here and save, it's going to override the initial one which has been saved already to the database. So if I pass in a different data here and then click on save, it's going to override the initial one. So for now, I'm going to leave it like this. So now I'm going to run the function for the read. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clear this up. So clear this. Okay, so now I'm going to run a function that is going to read this data and then display it inside this edit test. So getting still the same method I used for this save click listing, and that's the same thing I'm going to do for the read. So the read button is, okay, we have the ID of read, so I'm going to get it directly. So under the save, I'm going to say read. So it's going to also get that from the activity.main. So I will click enter and then set on click listener to this. Okay, so inside here now I'm going to create a function read data. Okay, so it's showing red, so I'm going to do the same thing and create a function. So here we have the function. So inside this function I'm going to read those datas. So the first thing I'm going to be doing now is to check if the shared preference actually contains this key 1. So now we are using this key 1, this key, to actually access the data from each and every one of this string. So I'm going to say if, so I'm going to use the shared preference which we created here, this shared preference. So I will say if shared preference that contains, so if it contains the key, so I'm going to get this key here, key 1. Make sure the name is correct. So I'm going to type key 1. If it does, so I want to get the value of this key, which is the value which was saved into the database. I want to get the value. So I'm going to store the value inside a variable of value. And then I will say shared preference dot get string, since it was a string which we put inside. So I'm going to use the get string method, and it's also taking 2 parameters. The first one is the key, and the second one I will just pass in an empty string. So I'm going to pass in the key 1, and then I will just pass in an empty string here. Okay, so awesome. Now we have successfully gotten the value. So now what I want to do, I want to display this value which I have gotten inside the edit test, which was this ed1.test, the first one. So I'm going to say ed1.setTest. Remember, this is an edit test. It's not appropriate to use edit test.test to actually get the data. So what I'm going to do, I'll use ed1.setTest. Since this is an edit test, we can only use that test method for test views. So I'll use the set test and then pass in the value inside. Awesome. And I also want to display the value as a toast. So I'm going to say toast and then pass in the value. Awesome. Okay, showing red, that is because it's supposed to be a string. So I'm going to convert this to a string and use the and the string template method, which is the $sign and then passing the value. So this has been converted to a string, or you can also do it like this, just pass it directly and say value dot to string. Okay, so this is also awesome. So I'll go with this one. So next I want to get this value as well, which is the second value which was stored inside the shared preference, and also display it and also show it as a toast. So I'm also going to use the if statement. So if shared preference dot contains, so I'm going to use the second key, which is key 2. So this is what I want to access. So I will say key 2. Okay, and then also pass an empty string here. And oh no, not here, I'm not going to pass an empty string. So if shared preference dot contains key 2, I want to get the value. So the same method I use here, that's the same thing I'm going to be doing here. So I'll give it a name of value. Don't worry, it's not going to conflict with this one because they are inside different block. So I'm going to say shared preference dot get string, and now I'm going to pass the key, which is this key 2, inside. Okay, and also return an empty string. So now I want to display this value inside the ed2 edit test view. So I'm going to say ed2.setTest. Okay, so I'll pass in the value. Awesome. So now I also want to display it as a toast. So I will say toast, and then I will pass in the value. So I'm going to use a string template here. So let it be different from this one, but it doesn't matter, you can still use this value.toString to access it. So I'm just going to use value. I'm doing this because I want to show you how to do it in a different way. So there are different ways of doing things in Android Studio. So this is all. We have successfully created the method save and the method read data. So here you can see we have the data as well, and this, but there's also one thing I want to do. So when the user saves in the data, like when they save the data, I want to set the edit test feed, which is this feed. I want to set this edit test feed to I want to make it empty. So once the data has been saved successfully, just make this stuff empty. So I'm going to say ed1.setTest. Okay, so I'll make it to be an empty string, and also do the same thing for the ed2.setTest and make it an empty string. Awesome. So now this is all, everything is okay. So we have successfully read the data, we have also saved the data. So I'm going to run the application for us to see the output. So I'll bring up my emulator here. Awesome. And wait for it to build. Okay, so our app is ready now. So let's try this to see if it is going to work, because I know it's going to work. So in the previous example, we saved the data. So now I'm going to try and read the data. So I'll click on this read to see if this read method actually worked. So I'm going to click on read, and you see sources. We have the first data, the head, and we also have the shared preference. And automatically the test has been added to this edit test feed. So if I click on read again, we are also still getting the value, so as a toast. And this is awesome. So now I'm going to try and store a different value. So I'm going to say Android, okay, and also saving Android. So here I'm going to save KOTLIN. Okay, so now I will save the program again. So you see, immediately I saved it, the feed became empty. So everything inside the feed was cleared automatically. So now I'm going to try to read the data again. So click on read, and also we get the Android and we get the KOTLIN. So now what I'm going to do, I will close this tab. So I'm going to close this tab, okay, and then we open the app again. okay, and then try to read from that data again. So you see we are still reading the same data, right? This is because the data is stored in the internal storage of my device. Awesome. So this is how you can read from, you can save and read data from a shared preference. You can see how simple it is. So I challenge you to go on and like experiment with the shared preference and see any other exciting things you can come up with. So thank you guys for watching, and do well to subscribe and like the video, and make sure you share the video to your friends if you actually love what I did in this tutorial. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video.